Rutgers Scarlet Knights fans, a late night for Larry K and Night Watch. Sorry it took me so long to get to my post-game rant, but I got tied up with some things. And quite frankly, we've seen this movie before, quite sadly. And so here we are. Rutgers falling on the road 35-13 to Illinois. A lot of people probably saw this coming, beating Purdue in a close one down to the wire wasn't indicative of how Rutgers was going to do against the better opponents on their schedule. Most people knew that Illinois going into the season, they were ranked. They've had a rough go in some games and some outings, but this was on the road. Illinois beat us last year, albeit based on a really rough coaching decision. Nonetheless, it was going to be difficult for Rutgers to win on the road. And Rutgers goes down. The Illini outscore Rutgers 7-0 in the first quarter, 14-6 in the second, 14-0, and 7-0 in the third and fourth quarter, respectively. Rutgers, it was the same old story in some ways. Early in the season, we had hot starts, and then the third quarter, we'd fall off. In the last several losses that we've rattled off, what's been really concerning has been the red zone production. I've been saying here, anywhere else I appear, and I've been pretty adamant about the fact that this stellar offense that was supposed to be the reason that we, stayed in games, or the only way that we were going to be able to keep up in games or win games, given the defense that wasn't going to be there. I've been saying for quite a while that the offense, for all of the hype and all of the discussion, the offense has not been up to par in a lot of ways. And the last several games, that offense has really shown itself to be inconsistent. And if anything, even having its, moments of productivity has not been up to par at a regular basis. And you saw in that game, Athan on the first drive, misfires a few times in a row. A drive that gets going, looks promising, misfires a few plays in a row. We wind up having to punt the ball. Excellent play on the, punt coverage team, getting down there, keeping the ball out of the end zone, downing it at the 1 yard line. Illinois has to start their first drive 99 yards away from the end line. First two plays go well enough to force them into a tough third down play. Sorry for my delivery right now, but force Altmaier into a tough throw. By some miraculous thing, he's able to launch that ball down the sideline. It's caught. Jabome goes down on that play. What would have been a sack, possible safety, winds up really almost catastrophic for the Scarlet Knights, as one of their best players and the heart and soul of the defense goes down. Illinois then proceeds to drive the length of the football field, and Rutgers doesn't have a prayer. They go in, they score. That set the tone early. But then Rutgers, after those misfires on the first drive, gets down into the red zone successively. And there was another play there, another good interception there, and a ball batted, and Rutgers has another chance. The defense has done this the last few games, getting turnovers, creating things for the offense. Offense goes down and just stalls out once again in the red zone. You had a really, really bad drop by Duff. He turns his head too quickly. He's looking downfield. It's just an unfortunate play. The offensive line is not stellar, and Rutgers stalls twice. Once they go for it on fourth down, they get the first down, but they're unable to convert into the end zone. They have to kick a field goal, come away with 2 trips, only 6 points. It's not good enough. Illinois, meanwhile, is stacking points, and that defense just looks worse and worse. I got to be honest with you. There were times, even in the first half still, where and especially in the third quarter, the defense, I'm not going to lie, it didn't look like the type of defense you're used to seeing from a Greg Schiano team. They look soft at times. At times, they looked like they didn't want to tackle. They didn't want to hit the guy head on. They didn't want to lay the wood. And it just looked like it was uninspired play. and that the weight of the season is starting to weigh on Rutgers at this point, and the disappointment is starting to mount. It's becoming a bit disheartening. It's one thing to lose. I think a lot of people expected Rutgers to lose to Illinois in Illinois, but to lose again in undoubted fashion, embarrassing fashion, Rutgers is really starting to make a name for itself, and it's not a good one. Ethan Kaliakmanis, 25 of 45 for 253 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Respectable numbers. Perhaps you'd like him to complete passes at a higher clip. Ethan has not been the problem with the team, but Ethan has not been, he's been good. But Ethan has not been elite at this point. And I don't know that it's fair to expect him to be elite, but I think with the defense the way it was this year and the reliance on skill players to make things happen and the quarterback to deliver it, I think you probably needed him to be closer to elite to really do what the team needed to get over the hump this year. And that's just not happening. Jashawn Benjamin, 8 carries for 37 yards. Raymond, 10 carries, 29 yards. Nothing doing really on the ground. And Illinois, David Anderson talked a little bit about this. Illinois was prepared to stop the run. They were going to make Rutgers beat them through the air. We were unable to really get them off balance, truly off balance at any point in the game. And we were unable to figure out that rush defense. Had to try to do it through the air, which wasn't doing much either. 9 receptions for 93 yards for KJ Duff, 1 touchdown. Ian Strong, 6 for 85. Sheffield got involved, 4 for 32. Weber playing for the injured Fletcher, 2 for 16. Raymond got involved. Ben Black got involved with 1 reception. And Jashawn Benjamin got involved with 1 reception as well. Farrell Nago, again, he's the one with the interception. I think he's an emerging kid. I said in my group chat, I said, when's Louisville coming calling for him? Since they took our other Canadian guys who are doing well on defense. It's nice to see some of that development. I mean, he's a guy you've seen develop now, and we haven't seen a whole lot of that. This pipeline, this storied and talked about pipeline, really hasn't been full very much this year or last year when you look at the depth and the things that have happened. Altmaier, only 19 completions on 31 attempts, but 235 yards, a touchdown, 4 touchdowns, and 1 interception. So the interception coming on that play early in the game could have made a difference. Rutgers couldn't come away with more than a field goal. Altmaier, only 19 of 31, but 235 yards and 4 touchdowns. This is the story with Rutgers for a long time now, it seems. Guys don't have to produce all that much through the air. They don't have to produce on every play. And this is another stat. David Anderson brought it up on the Scarlet Faithful podcast in the game preview, was Rutgers, because Brian Fonseca was saying, well, if you take away the big plays against Purdue, the defense definitely did better. Greg's calling plays. He's got the clipboard. He's got the tablet. He's got his glasses on. He said, but it's really, you can't really take out the big plays because it's part of the overall analysis. And David Anderson, he kind of fleshed it out, and he said, well, you can't take them out, but what you can look out is points per play and success rate per play, and Rutgers was better. But here's the thing. If you're able to get big plays and you're able to convert on the most pivotal plays, it doesn't matter how much you make them work for it. They're going to beat you. And throwing for 235 yards, which is a little bit less than Ethan Kaliakmanis' 253, he's still got 4 touchdowns out of it and only 1 interception. So that's where you start to lose games. Altmaier had just a ridiculous run, and this is where I just there were times where this defense looked like they didn't want to hit very hard, but then there were other times where this defense just looks like they were moving in slow motion. And the extent, and I'm at a lot of the games, and I'm really low close to the field, right? So sometimes it's a little difficult for me to get a good look, an overhead look at angles and how guys are, seeking angles and how they're taking position. I am really not eloquent tonight. I apologize to all my longstanding Night Watch listeners. I'm sorry I'm stumbling and I'm fumbling. Daylight savings has given me an extra hour, but Rutgers has taken years off my life, and I'm struggling to convey the message today. I apologize. I'm usually much more fluid in my speech. But there was a play where Altmaier just takes off running, And the angles and the speed were so pathetic by the Rutgers defense. They really looked like they were moving in slow motion because Altmaier was not flying out of there. The hole opened up, but there were plenty of guys within striking distance if they just quickly took a decent angle, and they're just slow and they're in terrible angles, and he sneaks through for, I don't know what it was, 10, 15 yards. It was a joke. It might have been on the touchdown. It was terrible. It was either a touchdown or he was close to it. I forget. But the defense just looks like the angles are terrible. They look like they're moving in slow motion. It's been a nightmare. Altmaier, 7 for 88. The quarterback averaged 12.6 yards a carry. What are we doing? What are we doing? Just terrible. Catching the ball, Clement, 5 receptions, 84 yards, a touchdown. Beatty, 4 receptions, 40 yards, a touchdown. Dixon, 2 for 36, a touchdown. Fagan, 3, 26, a touchdown. Just decimated on defense once again. Team stats, 445 yards for Illinois to 312 for, 445. Every time you read the stat line for yards against, Rutgers just does not look like the team with the backbone and the toughness that you've come to expect from a Schiano Jersey team. And it's sad to see. We edge them in passing yards, as I talked about, 253 to 235. But when you don't have efficiency and when you flail in the red zone as bad as we have, you're not going to see it on the score sheet. And we didn't. First downs, 26 for the Illini, 19 for Rutgers. Third down efficiency was close. Fourth down efficiency was close. We ran 72 plays to their 69. Again, efficiency a factor. They're way more efficient. They're scoring way more points per play on average than we are, and that's become a trend. We can run all the plays we want. We've dominated time of possession. We have dominated time of possession this year. We have been really good at converting third downs this year. So we're able to put drives together. Our quarterback ranks higher, in the upper part of the Big Ten in yardage. Our third down conversion rate ranks higher in the Big Ten. Our running back ranks up there in the Big Ten. So this offense, for all the discussion, this offense in numbers does produce in terms of yardage, in terms of plays and conversions and moving the sticks. But what it lacks is converting that into enough points. And that is a dagger, an absolute dagger when you don't have a defense that can hang. And Rutgers does not. And so there is no complimentary football with this football team. None. And part of it's on the offense. 3 penalties for 22 for 25 for the Illini. Didn't lose any fumbles, either team. 1 interception. That's the only turnover. Illinois actually dominated. Well, didn't dominate, but they led in time of possession, 32 minutes, 27 minutes. Interesting stat from a good buddy of the show and a good buddy in general, Richie O'Leary. Since Schiano's return to Rutgers, it's 5-15 in November. The Scarlet Knights are 5-15 in November since Schiano came back. All time, Schiano with Rutgers, they're 19-41 in November. So it might be time to have a little bit of a discussion. And I mean, it's not yet, not till the season's over, but there becomes sort of a myth that takes on its own narrative with things from the past, right? And a lot of times we sensationalize and we weave these legacies of people from the past that have done these things. And when they come back for the second time, you're faced with the reality that maybe it wasn't as good as your nostalgic memories make it out to be. And Greg Schiano is a good program builder. He's a good culture builder. He brought this program currently up from the ashes, literally and figuratively, from Chris Ash. And he has a good reputation around the league and around the state and in football in general. And he was able to instill something in these kids that early on in his tenure in 2.0, you really saw the X factor, the turnovers, the hard-nosed play, the desire, the hunger, the chop. And over the last 2 years, as the defense has gotten worse, as the pipeline that was supposed to be full has not quite been full, as NIL has raided our guys, as you haven't been able to develop guys, as recruiting classes that we once celebrated have shown not to be up to par, some of that shine has worn off. And what you're seeing is that in pivotal moments late in the season in November, in game time decisions, there is something to be desired with the current coaching staff and the current direction of the program. And it's getting harder to feel optimistic about things the way things have gone. Now, I told you that the way to salvage this season and to stay afloat was to beat Purdue, beat Maryland next week at home, beat Penn State, and win a bowl game. The fact is that the only team we've beaten in conference this year was Purdue, who was on a long time losing streak to conference teams, who was terrible this year, and who we needed to beat at the last minute after an epic defensive play and a takeaway turnover. It's hard to think that we can win a single other game on this schedule. Maryland today, they take a bad beating from Indiana. Indiana is the number 2 team in the country. And that just goes to show you that you're not assigned your lot in life and having to stay there forever. Indiana used to be a team we counted on for a win, even in the Ash era at times. And they're number 2 in the country. They bullied Maryland 55-10. 55-10. Penn State got spanked by Ohio State 38-14. So you want to look at those teams and you want to say, well, we got a chance, right? We got some talent at wide receiver. Our quarterback's playing pretty good. Yeah, we've absorbed some injuries, but we could beat these guys presumably. You want to say that. You'd love to say it. But the truth is, it's hard to say because this team hasn't shown even when the defense gets a stop, the offense can't get a touchdown. Even when the offense scores, the defense can't stop anything. And so it's hard to imagine beating either one of those teams. I'm still rooting for it. I'll be there for both of them. I hope they do it. It would be great. It would change a lot of things. And then this coaching staff's got to sit down with Kelly's in. They got to sit down with Tate. They got to figure out a plan, how to infuse this team with much more talent and how to reshuffle this coaching staff to help these kids get better prepared and to have a better plan of how they're going to take on this conference. But when you were playing Illinois toe-to-toe last year at home, and you should have beat them, but for a really, really bad decision, and you get handily beat where there's not really ever a chance of you winning, and the same mistakes are becoming a trend, and the same issues, red zone efficiency, lack of X factor, lack of an edge, crumbling late in the season, crumbling in big games. It's becoming a real concern. And honestly, it's hard to care. It's hard to be a Rutgers fan right now and care about what's going on with the team. We've been beaten so far into submission at this point that where are we supposed to derive hope? And if we can't derive hope, how are recruits? How are the guys currently in the program? How are they supposed to find that extra edge and that extra dimension and find hope? I didn't expect to win this game, but the same things cropping up again and getting beaten so handily still stings pretty bad. Now, I'll say this. Illinois has been maligned a bit because they didn't live up to the hype preseason. Ranked, some outside chance of maybe making the college football playoff, a very good quarterback, a coach who, by the way, we could have had doing pretty well, but were exposed by certain teams that are just ahead of them. But don't mistake them being exposed by those teams to them not being a better team than us this year. They were a better team than us going into the season. They were a better team than us last year, and they're a better team than us this year. Us losing to the Illini is not necessarily some epic blunder that was not partially on them just being a better football team than us. But the question is why, in the short span of a few years, have the Illini surpassed us so much that now we're getting handily beat and it's not even a contest anymore? Either play a little bit above your weight, even with the injuries and whatnot, and make it respectable, or have a team coming into the season that's not at such a disadvantage against a team that should be your peer. However you slice it, there's something wrong in New Brunswick, Piscataway, whatever. There's something wrong. And we got 3 more games. 3 more to get to. 3 more to get to. You're not beating Ohio State. Forget about it. You don't beat Maryland, the season's over. And maybe that's a blessing. I remember a buddy who was a Jets fan had a fantasy football team, and it was Jets, Jets, just end the season. And I'm starting to feel that way. I mean, beat Maryland, and we take it to the wire because you're going to get smacked by Ohio State. That's life. But beat Maryland, and you can stand up, and you could try to beat a much more talented Penn State team that's flailing. Make the season something. Make some memory out of it. But you lose this Maryland game, and this thing's done. And maybe that's for the better. I don't know. But, I'm at a point where, and again, let me reiterate another time, I wasn't, and nobody rational was expecting the Rutgers Scarlet Knights to get to 9 wins this year, get to 8 wins this year, compete for a playoff, compete for a New Year's Bowl. No one was asking for that. What people wanted was 6-6 in a bowl game. And that's so far out of the realm of possibility with the embarrassments and things that it's just getting to a point where, we're not irrational fans, but you got to do better than this. This isn't good enough. This just isn't good enough. There's no way around. It's not good enough. That's just saying the least. So I'm kind of anxious to get into the off season and to see what happens with this program. What goes on? Who leaves? Who stays? Who are we able to bring in? What kind of changes happen along the coaching staff? What does the athletic director have to say about it? I mean, what happens here? I've liked and I respect Greg Schiano as a Jersey guy, as a football coach, as somebody who's led this program in an admirable, respectful way. Somebody who gave us a lot of good memories, but he's got to fix something. Something about this program has to be fixed. And there's no way around any of that. And so I can't sit here and tell you that I'm overly upset because I've seen it so much already. But it's time. It's time to I kind of want, try to win against Maryland. Give me something to stand on. Let's try to beat Maryland so that Penn State is something to see. And then as this thing winds down, man, there's gonna be a lot of tough questions to answer and a lot of analysis to get into. But it's another losing Saturday for the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, another tough out for RU fans. We will be discussing the football team in the coming week. Hopefully, I've had such crazy weeks. I haven't been able to get on here much for game previews. Hopefully, I can get you one with the Maryland game. I like the rivalry. I know some people don't want it, don't think it's anything. I think it's a kind of a fun little rivalry that's brewing. Let's make it memorable again this Saturday. Let's get out there. Let's try to win. Let's enjoy some tailgates. Season, we wait all year for the season, and then it comes and it goes, and without a lot of fanfare this year. But let's see what we can do. Let's see what this team can do next week. And time's running out. There's going to be a lot of questions to be answered. But stay up as best you can. Enjoy the rest of your weekend as best you can. And hit subscribe. Click subscribe and join the channel. And I'll talk to you guys a little later. Larry K.